This is CBC Vancouver News.
It's happened again. A truck has hit an overpass on a major BC highway, this time on the North Shore.
Do you feel scared?
Yeah, I mean, we do, actually. Yes, we do.
Worry rises among some Sikhs in BC after the Prime Minister accuses the Indian government of playing a role in the killing of a Surrey Gurdwara leader.
If the water levels don't go too far down that they can't make it in between the two big pools, that would be very sad.
And what does BC's grinding drought mean for salmon returning to dry rivers and streams? Good evening, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. It may have said wide load, but height appears to be the problem for a truck that hit an overpass on Highway 1 in North Vancouver earlier tonight. It's shut down eastbound traffic for hours, and it's still not clear when it will reopen. Take a look. The truck hit the Main Street overpass just before the Ironworkers Memorial Bridge. Eastbound traffic on Highway 1 has been closed since before 7 p.m. No word yet if the driver or anyone else was hurt or why the truck hit the overpass in the first place. Eastbound drivers are being diverted at Mountain Highway and are being asked to use the Lionsgate Bridge instead. Transportation Ministry's staff say structural engineers were called to the scene, as was the Commercial Vehicle and Safety Enforcement Team. We are still waiting to hear back from the North Vancouver RCMP if they have an update. The Transportation Ministry's own website says there have been 23 bridge strikes on provincial highways in BC since late 2021. This one is the 24th. Reaction is growing in Canada and around the world amid explosive allegations that the Indian government helped arrange the killing of a BC Sikh man. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is not backing down, while India denies any involvement in Hardeep Nijjar's death. But as CBC's Marina von Stackelberg reports, Canadian allies are calling for a thorough investigation.
The Prime Minister says Canada will make sure those responsible for the murder of a Sikh Canadian will be held to account.
India, the government of India, needs to take this matter with the utmost seriousness. We are doing that. We are not looking to provoke or escalate. We are simply laying out the facts as we understand them.
Trudeau says intelligence officials have credible evidence linking agents of the Indian government to the murder of Canadian citizen Hardeep Singh Nijjar. He was shot to death outside this Surrey Gurdwara in June. Nijjar was an outspoken critic of India's government and supported an independent Sikh state.
Hardeep Singh Nijjar had publicly mentioned the threat to his life for months.
National Muslim and Sikh organizations say they are not surprised the killing is being linked to India's government. They say it was only a matter of time before something like this happened on Canadian soil.
And there are a number of Canadian Sikhs that have been identified as having a threat to their life, and we are asking for the government of Canada to provide protection for these Sikhs in Canada.
I mean, in Canada, if you cannot have an opinion about another foreign government without having to worry about walking outside and worrying is there going to be a foreign agent that's going to gun you down in the streets, what's going on?
India's government denies any involvement in the shooting. The NDP want the public inquiry into foreign interference to investigate India's actions in Canada's affairs.
Given these allegations, there's no doubt now that India should be included in the public inquiry and that any and all forms of interference need to be investigated thoroughly.
Canada's allies are calling for a thorough investigation with the Indian government's full cooperation. Still, the United Kingdom and the United States both said today they will continue trade talks with India despite Canada's allegations. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
Some members of BC's Sikh community here say they are worried about their safety, concerned what happened to Nijjar might happen again. Lindsay Duncombe has more on their call for action.
For those who knew Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who shared in his activism, fear they could be targeted too.
Do you feel scared?
Yeah, I mean, we do, actually. Yes, we do.
Why?
You know, we face many threats, you know.
Nijjar was known around the world for his support for an independent Sikh state, a movement India sees as extremist. To that country, he was a terrorist. To his community, a hero, now a martyr. Nijjar was gunned down outside his gurdwara in June. Violence CSIS had reportedly warned him about. In the 3 months since his killing, Sikh separatists say the RCMP has been in touch.
According to them, they are doing their best. That's what they told the activists, that they are trying to protect us.
Still, this is a community rattled by rumors.
Everyone has heard that they're being here, the spies are here all over the Surrey especially, and there is still some of the Sikhs are still not safe here.
Canada's Sikh community is the largest outside of India, and there are calls for Canadian law enforcement to do more.
People should not have to be worried about getting shot when they're walking out of a place of worship in Canada.
Politicians are promising to protect communities.
But we need to keep people safe in British Columbia.
And until we, look
But they may not be able to, warns this former law enforcement leader and security consultant. He says legal barriers keep agencies from sharing information, making Canada an easy target.
I honestly don't see things changing, and I actually only see them getting worse because we're getting more well-known, for being, the soft underbelly of Western democracies.
Vancouver police say they have increased police presence around the Indian consulate downtown. Another sign divisions rooted so far away, building for so long, are causing very real security concerns here in Canada. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.
A teenage boy and his 23-year-old friend on Vancouver Island are recovering in hospital after they were stabbed getting off a bus in Souk on Saturday. As Emily Vance shows us, police have arrested another young man, but no charges have been laid yet.
I don't know how big the knife was, but I was hit 3 times in the back and 3 in my right arm before my buddy came and saved my life.
It was a bus ride turned violent for friends Cameron Martin and Nike Dent. 17-year-old Martin says things began to get heated when another young man boarded the bus they were on. The two friends say they began criticizing the 21-year-old over his dating life. Martin says he was stabbed as he got off the bus with wounds that went between his ribs, punctured a lung, and severed an artery. That's when Nike Dent stepped in.
If I didn't do anything, I thought he was going to die, so that's why I went out to go help him. And I started getting, stabbed as well.
Paramedics rushed both to Victoria General Hospital in critical condition.
And he bled out into his chest cavity 3 different times the first night and had to have blood transfusions until they could stop the internal bleeding.
Police say they arrested a suspect close by. Both victims claim they don't know the alleged attacker personally, but RCMP believe they were known to each other. BC Transit says it's working with police, and Mounties are hoping someone with video will contact them.
We're still investigating the relationship between all the parties involved, and that's why it's really important if people do have information to please contact the Souk detachments.
No one has been charged yet, though RCMP expect they will be soon.
For 9 hours, I was wondering if he was going to make it or not.
Both young men's parents say it's not the first time they've feared for their children's safety in Souk. Amber Lalonde moved here 17 years ago.
From a safe place where you could let your kids play outside and go out and enjoy yourself to now you have to watch your back.
I know it's never safe to walk around. I just never thought that day would be the day.
Souk RCMP argue there is no risk to the public.
I would have no problem taking the bus tomorrow. I would have no problem walking on the streets in Souk.
But for the families of these two young men, their return to school and work could take a long time. Emily Vance, CBC News, Victoria.
15 people are now charged with mischief a year after a violent clash at a music event at the P&E. Some of the people who went to the Breakout Festival last September caused more than $300,000 in property damage. This after headliner Lil Baby canceled at the last minute. Vancouver police say they identified the suspects using security camera video at the P&E amphitheater and cell phone footage.
From this video, they were able to get a very good appreciation for who did what during this event. And they focused on the people that were the most heinous in their behavior. We didn't go after everybody.
The 15 suspects are all men who between the ages of 15 and 22 at the time. Police say all but 3 of them live outside Vancouver. New data from TransLink shows overcrowding on our public transit system is getting worse across Metro Vancouver. This summer, transit services saw 14 million more boardings than last summer, And transit ridership in Surrey and Langley is 120% higher than pre-COVID levels, as 50,000 people move to Metro Vancouver each year. Local mayors fear if new services are not added, transit won't be able to keep up.
We are really, really in need of better public transit, and it is at the point, as Mayor West talked about, it is really hampering our ability to build in our city. It is starting to impact our ability to produce housing.
The Mayor's Council is urging the provincial and federal governments to commit funding for a transit expansion plan they call Access for Everyone. It aims to double bus service, build new rapid bus lines, and increase funding for active transportation in the next decade. The council says the plan needs money no later than mid-June to stay on track. The summer has been BC's worst ever wildfire season, and it's not over. The opposition BC United, meanwhile, is pledging to tackle it with new wildfire preparedness and recovery plans.
We can't afford to wait any longer. It's time for decisive action to protect our communities, our environment, and our economy.
The party says its 5-point plan will modernize firefighting, make better use of local expertise and response teams, speed up support for evacuees, and improve forest management and prevention. Vancouver Island, meanwhile, has been in drought level 5 for nearly 2 months. River levels have hit historic lows. As Claire Palmer shows us, the situation has many people worried, especially as salmon return to dry streams and rivers.
While rivers are normally low at this time of year, this year it's unprecedented. A combination of dry weather last fall, a low snowpack from this past winter, and a hot summer have all contributed to the historic low levels.
Well, I've been involved with operations for 23 years. I've never seen a summer to this degree and how dry it's been. It's the lowest we've seen in terms of water inflows coming to the system. And
we've seen really dry springs and really dry falls, but we haven't yet seen a really dry spring and fall. This may be that year, and if it's not this year, it's likely to be very soon. So that's definitely frightening.
Typically, a target flow would be nearly 16 cubic meters per second. Last Monday, that was dropped down to 8. With salmon returning, it's important to keep those levels high for spawning. Locals have noticed the impact that the low levels have had on the salmon.
I'd like the fish to stay, so if, as long as the water levels don't go too far down that they can't make it in between the two big pools, that would be very sad. I wouldn't want our fish to go away, and snagging gear because the water level's low sucks.
Much of the Comox Valley is in water restriction level 3. That means no lawn watering, no washing of cars or boats at private residences, no power washing, and no filling pools, hot tubs, or ponds.
Being water wise really helps. And it's not a lot of difference people may think, but it does add up over time. And so, we will get through this. We learn from these events, and we're managing the system the best we can, but I think everyone has a bit of a role to play.
We have a strong interest in making sure that people understand the nature of the kind of the water emergency and take steps to adjust their water conservation measures in line with the changes that we're seeing to the climate.
Water flow from the rivers is used for domestic water supply, irrigation, recreation, as well as supplying power across the island. While there's some rain in the forecast, it'll take more than a sprinkle to restore river levels. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Courtney.
Nonprofit grocery market Quest has long been a fixture on the downtown east side. Now it's opened a larger, permanent home on East Hastings. Have a look.
Welcome to our East Vancouver downtown east side grocery market location. Quest is a very special, unique grocery model. We aren't a food bank, but we also aren't a traditional grocery market. Our clients are referred to us. Once you have a referral and your Quest client card, you can come into any one of Quest's market locations when you want, as much as you want, and buy what you want. And that's the key piece. Our clients get to buy their own product, choose their own product at reduced prices.
This is a much bigger location. We have a walk-in cooler, so that's really, really good for us because, you know, when we put supplies in there, it's not, we just usually get like one case when in the other store of something, and then we run out, and then it's not so good, right? So, but because we have the walk-in cooler, we can store more product, and then when we run out, we just fill it up. All sorts of teas and drinks and coffees and, you know, produce, and we couldn't offer that much. We could offer product, but not as much at the other locations. It gives people a lot more independence when they come in, right? So that's a really great thing for people that are already facing challenges, and sometimes it can be difficult. And then when they can do stuff on their own, it's like really like, you know, it feels good inside when you get to be a little bit on your own side.
Nice to see you again. Thank you. So I come once a week. It really saves, you know, because, you know, we're on old age pension, so we don't have the money that they want prices, you know, in different stores.
I mean, we want to take care of everyone walking through our doors, but the goal, the ultimate mission is to disrupt cycles of food insecurity. So we're this temporary bridge for folks to get back up on their feet.
Thank you. Thank you.
Seeing and experiencing the beauty and without the crowds.
Coming up, concerns about Joffre Lakes Provincial Park's future. It's reopened after it was closed. That's next. And good evening or good morning to everyone watching our commercial-free live stream. The federal government is extending the deadline for its small business pandemic loan program. But as David Ball reports, many BC stores say the government's gesture has fallen far short.
I've been fighting lately to save my business, and it's just because of various economic conditions.
North Vancouver's Tamara Novikowski says her Delish General Store is on the brink, thanks to inflation, lower sales, and a federal loan deadline in December. She owes Ottawa about $50,000. So this week, she was relieved when Ottawa extended the deadline to have a third of her debt forgiven.
And then I read that it was 2 weeks, and I thought, what good does that do anybody in my situation? It's just another bucket of water out of the sinking ship.
Through the pandemic, Ottawa loaned small businesses $49 billion. It helped thousands survive the pandemic slump. But the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses says 4 in every 5 BC borrowers have not repaid.
It seems they've really missed the point of what small businesses are struggling with the most. Our communities benefit from their bravery and from their hard work, and it's a slap in the face to be told that it just wasn't enough and that it's not going to cut it in time. So we hope that the government does extend the deadline for the forgivable portion of the loan so that these small business owners can make ends meet and continue to survive.
Canada's Finance Ministry says it extended the full repayment by 3 years. It's just the forgivable third that's due January 18th. But few say they can afford to lose up to $20,000 they were told was free.
Let's commit to making a certain amount of payments every month to show good faith and to show that you're chipping away at that. That would be such a relief for so many of us. I think it would save some businesses from going under. I have never been more at risk of going under, and it's never been a closer reality. I could go either way. I think it's just a matter of me making a very personal decision. And I'm not prepared to make that decision yet.
David Ball, CBC News, Vancouver.
Joffre Lakes Provincial Park reopened to the public today, more than 3 weeks after it was abruptly closed by the Lil'wat and Nequatka First Nations north of Whistler. CBC News was invited to tour the area yesterday, and as Moira Whiten shows us, the nation has concerns about that park's future.
Quiet roads and a nearly empty parking lot, rare sights at the popular park, but welcomed by the Lil'wat and Nequatka First Nations for their harvest activities.
For our people, they are, harvesting, and mostly just seeing and experiencing the beauty and without the crowds, without the populations there.
Nelson says the First Nations were exercising their title rights when they originally planned to close the park until September 30th, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And while the province called the move sudden, Nelson says it had ignored the nation's growing concerns about traffic and litter as the park's popularity exploded.
As we move towards reconciliation, we're looking, to have our voice, to have access to any and all lands that we know are ours, and just to have access to them when we want to, not when the BC parks say that we can. So this is the very tip of the iceberg, I would say, that we're exercising our right to have all of that.
The park reopened today following an agreement between both nations and the province. It will be closed again on September 30th for ceremonies to thank the land. BC's Environment Minister says the deal shows the province's strong commitment to reconciliation, and it will continue to work with the Lil'wat and Nequatka on a long-term plan. Some would-be visitors were a day too soon on Monday, but said they understood why the park was closed.
We wanted to do it, but unfortunately.
Yeah, the lake. I mean, I saw it all over Instagram and TikTok, and it's really, really beautiful. The pictures seem nice and the videos as well, but there is a lot of different lakes in the area as well, so we'll just check those out.
Nelson says visitors should learn about the land, and this reopening is only the beginning of a permanent solution.
Pushing forward to reconciliation, there has to be some major gestures of that, some movement.
BC Park says visitors need free day passes until October 9th, and the backcountry camping season will end on November 13th. Moira Whiten, CBC News, Vancouver.
There's a live shot of BC Place. Some rain today across the south coast as we go back to sun. Darius Badavi will have your BC-wide forecast next.
Particular instrument we think was made in the 1890s. It came from New Zealand. We believe it was made in Scotland and then taken to New Zealand in the 1800s.
He plays on a Stradivarius of bagpipes, fitting for a man who is the Heifetz of pipers. Some would say 23-year-old Bruce Woodley from Richmond, BC, is the best player in the world.
It's just an interesting sounding instrument. It's very loud and sort of bold.
Woodley's reputation rests on his recent win at a bagpipe festival in Inverness, Scotland.
The long and the short of it is that all the great pipers of the past have all won gold medals. It's the World Championship of Bagpiping. I guess it's like winning a gold medal at the Olympics. This is the place to win.
I quote from the diary of Samuel Pepys, who wrote in 1668 about the best bagpiper he had ever heard. He did play beyond anything of that kind that ever I heard in my life, but with pains that the instrument doth not deserve at all, for at the best it is mighty barbarous music.
There's something stirring about having a large group of pipers marching towards you, all playing. The instrument produces on the order of 115 decibels each instrument. So it's a very inspiring instrument, or fearful instrument when played.
Through his bagpipe, Woodley communes with his roots in Scotland, but perhaps fitting for someone who lives outside that ancient land, his life is thoroughly modern. This student from Simon Fraser University does research for the NASA Space Shuttle. Bob Nixon, CBC News, Burnaby.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell. Here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox. With the changes to how Canada is able to access journalism online and on social media, we want to assure you that when you're looking for CBC News, you'll always be able to find us. Wherever you are in BC, local news, breaking stories, and the latest from around the world is at your fingertips any time of the day with the free CBC News app and online at cbcnews.ca. Download the CBC News app and stay connected wherever you are.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Darius Madavi is here to paint us a BC-wide weather picture. We got some rain and something more.
Yes, quite a bit more. You can see here on the radar, we had actually quite a bit of snow come up for a lot of the mountaintops across the province, both in southern and central BC, in addition to all that rain that we saw pass through both of those parts of the province, as well as making its way down here to the south coast. We got a fairly good amount of rain in a lot of these places where we have been extremely dry for quite a while. Over the next 24 hours, as we head into tomorrow, a lot less rain happening. Just as that system exits the province, we get a little bit more in the morning and overnight for the southern interior. But really, once that's out, we could dry up quite a bit, except for probably the northwest, maybe the coast, as we get into the end of this week. So this was really our chance for these showers to really make a difference. We wouldn't expect one day to make a difference in terms of the drought rating, but maybe we'd be able to see some actual wet soil for a change. That would have been nice. Now, if we take a look at our temperatures, they're staying suppressed tomorrow. Remember last week we were in the 30s. We've dropped all the way down to the mid-teens, high teens in some places. So a massive drop in temperature. Those temperatures stick around tomorrow. They come up a little bit as we get into Wednesday. And here's our smoke forecast, which always takes a bit to load in, but that's fine. In the northeast and the central BC, the places you'd expect, we've got some rain as that system passes through. Smoke in the south becomes a bit more widespread than it has been the last few days, but expect that to clear out fairly quickly. There's a maximum smoke tomorrow, so it shouldn't be too bad for the most part for most of tomorrow. Just as that system moves out, it'll move a little bit more than it has been lately. Now, if we take a look, these showers happening in the south, again, probably just in the morning. Just a chance for most of these places. Most places likely won't see too much rain, and we clear up through the rest of the province, and that clearing trend will continue as that system moves out. Here in Vancouver, we clear up, and to the end of this week, it's not until the weekend we see some showers return. Peak temperatures probably happening on Thursday, especially inland, where we see quite a big spike in temperature before it comes back down on Friday, and we head into a cooler, cloudier weekend.
Almost the end of summer. There we are.
Almost there. Yeah.
Thanks, Darius.
Thanks, Dan.
That's your late news for Tuesday. Thank you for joining us tonight. For news at any hour, check our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5:30, and they'll have the latest on when Highway 1 eastbound in North Vancouver may reopen. As of now, and the update was supposed to be at 11, it's still closed. Good night.